Hold. Hey everybody, welcome to Our Yard Podcast with your host Hogmaster 96 with uh Trevor Cole,
Swaggy T.
Swaggy T, and so we got an interesting episode. Like this is kind of a spontaneous. So apparently we have some fans. Shout out y'all. But shout out to Colby Bickerstaff in general on this one. He said he messaged Trevor today and came up with an idea of a topic and said we should go over our like music in general, like our favorite albums and stuff from the year 1991. Which actually, this is something pretty cool because we've really talked about wrestling for the most part on this podcast, but we love music. Like we love all kinds of sports, not just wrestling. It's just wrestling's just kind of been what's the prime thing going right now. So, but we're gonna do this idea like, and hopefully if you guys like it, we'll keep doing some different years here and there. And also, y'all can comment on the YouTube video about ideas. If you want us to do like certain topics or whatever, like, because honestly, like this shit's pretty cool that we, have somebody that wants us to do a certain thing. So,
Yeah.
shout out Colby once again. And this is mine and Trevor's list of our favorite albums from 1991. And I'm gonna let Trevor kick it out. Like, let him go with one of his favorites. And also, this is just subjective. This is our opinion. You know, this is like the music that we like. So,
Yeah, like
if you have something else, leave a comment, speak your
yeah,
mind.
any album we didn't go over in this, like, not everybody has the same music taste, and we apologize on that, I guess, as much as we can. But like this is pretty much just gonna be the albums that we fucked with, either like together or even separately. Because I mean, 1991. Again, shout out to Colby for that specific year because that is a very special year as far as music went because that's one of the few like years that everything just changed. And that went for a lot of genres because 1990 was like that last like death that death knell for like the glam bands, and then 1991 everybody was like I'm sad now. So then you had like all these bands that were trying to like, copy that like Seattle sound, and then you had like Pantera doing their thing, and just all these different bands coming in and just changing the game. But my favorite band put out one of their best albums, in my opinion, Primus, Sailing the Seas of Cheese in 1991. And if you haven't listened to that album, I highly recommend it if you're into more experimental music. Um, part of being a Primus fan is kind of understanding that they are just like a very, very talented jam band at the end of the day. And they have this weird kind of cult following. Les Claypool, one of the three best bassists to ever do it, probably behind Geddy Lee and maybe a couple other people, probably the best rock metal bassist of all time. That's just our opinions as well. Um, you can throw Cliff Burton in there as well, but that's a whole nother topic. I mean, you can go over the hits. Um, Jerry Was a Race Car Driver was probably the first Primus song I ever heard. Um, Tommy the Cat's probably their biggest hit outside of Winona's Big Brown Beaver.
Or My Name Is Mud, probably.
Yeah, or My Name, one of those three, and that's three different albums,
Yeah.
that all three of those songs are from. But really, it just depends on what song you heard from them first. Because, yeah, I mean, the first one I ever heard was Jerry Was a Race Car Driver. And then they were always very prevalent in like just these video. Every time I got a video game, like it seemed like every 2 or 3 games there would be a Primus song in there, whether it was like Guitar Hero or Tony Hawk, like multiple. They had multiple songs in multiple Tony Hawk games.
Or an ATV game.
ATV games. Pretty sure they had a song or two in a couple movies. I know Zach and Miri makes a porno, starts off with one known as Big Brown Beaver. And speaking of Tommy the Cat, going back to the album, if you've ever seen, I think it was the second Bill and Ted when they had the Battle of the Bands.
Mm-hmm.
Primus was the band. Then they were playing Tommy the Cat. But, you know, um, very jazzy in its own way, but it's all just some sort of, yeah. Primus is hard to define as a genre because they sound different, but they sound the same every time. And it's very hard to explain through words what that sound is. But
That's
yeah, no,
probably.
I heavily fuck with it. But my favorite song on the album is probably 11
Mm,
because the
11.
song is named after the time signature that it's in, and that's about the only sense you're going to make out of what's actually being said in the song, and that's just something you get out of Les Claypool as well. Um,
So,
Never understated. Herb Alexander, one of the best drummers of all time, doing what he does, and I mean, Lur Lalonde is. Here's the thing: if you don't know, if you've never listened to Primus before, you're going to be like, "What the hell is the guitarist doing?" But then after you've been listening to them for a while, you start to realize that's probably the only guitarist on the planet that can actually like complement Les as good as he does without trying to play every note that Les is playing. Because good luck with that anyway. But yeah, it's a fucking 10 out of 10 album.
so, so I will say, I'll give my favorite song from the album. I guess like the albums that we do, and we both know we can just give each other a
Yeah,
song. 'Cause honestly,
just a
y'all, like
Sergeant
we just
Baker. Isn't it?
like we're kind of play by ear with this episode and like this whole trend, like this whole idea at the moment because it's just fresh and we're kind of excited, just wanting to do it. But
Yeah,
so we'll make rules up as we go along. Just fuck them. Um, if I like, so I remember being 14, going to Trevor's house the first time, and him playing bass, and like he was playing "American Life" by Primus, and I just like that. Every time I see "Sailing the Seas of Cheese" album, I always think of that song. Like I just think of that that bass line, just like it hits me. It stuck with me. But Sergeant Baker, without a doubt, is my favorite song, and like we got to see it live. It was phenomenal. Like that's yeah,
mm.
Sergeant Baker's hands down my favorite song on the album. Which I mean, really, there's a lot of I don't know, like those damn blue collar tweakers. Like you can't go wrong, man. It's just is it luck?
Here come the bastards. I mean, the
But the
whole
whole
album,
album,
top to bottom, there ain't a skip on it. Really, I mean, is it luck? Is probably Les's as far as just being frantic as hell, probably his most insane bass line. But I feel like I have bass lines by him I like a lot more. But yeah, it's the whole album, top to bottom, is just if you're a musical nerd, it'll definitely tickle your fancy. I highly recommend them if you've never listened to them. Just like try to sit down and if you can make it to Sergeant Baker, you'll fuck with the whole album. I think. Definitely between that and Frizzle Fry, they came out a year before 1990. That's probably their two most accessible albums. So, like, if you're gonna make a deep dive into Primus, I really recommend starting with "Sailing the Seas of Cheese" because Frizzle Fry is still probably my favorite album, top to bottom. But definitely check it out.
or my favorite, which is years later, a few years afterwards, is Tales from the Punch Bowl. If you're just wanting to get into Primus, like Tales from a Punch Bowl is perfect. And there's a song called Year of the Parrot, and Tim Alexander shows why he's one of the top five best drummers of all time. Like
Absolutely.
you have to just listen to it if you're in the, if you want to give Primus a chance. But
Or the outro to Southbound Pachyderm, but
oh
that's also an album from 1995. We're gonna try to stick with 91.
yeah,
So
so my first pick, I'm gonna go. I don't know if you want to do this. Like, I don't have any particular order, I guess. Like on how I would
Just first
rank,
albums that
how
come
I'd
to
rank
mind
these
from the year.
albums. Like how I'd rank these albums. But my first pick, I'm gonna go with. Before I make my first pick, I'm gonna say in '91, like September 24th, 1991, there was three albums dropped on that same Friday, which was Nevermind by Nirvana, Blood Sugar Sex Magic by Red Hot Chili Peppers, and Outshine. How about Bad Motorfinger by Soundgarden, which are three great albums. Bad Motorfinger is one of my top 15 albums of all time, easily, hands down. Um, but anyways, my first pick, it's a little low, but it's gonna sneak up on you. It's Temple of the Dog self-titled album that they did in
Mm.
honor of Andrew Wood. Holy fucking shit! This album holds a very special place in my heart. Like it's one of those albums like my dad when I was a kid used to ride around in his S10 and his Ford Ranger, and like we would ride around in those trucks listening to like cassettes all the time, and that was one of them. And like the CD, oh god, like we we listened to this album so much, and like Temple of the Dog, but it was just a one off. You know, they just did the one off album, and it was for like I said, it was in dedication, like in memory, and a dedicated album to Andrew Wood, the lead singer of Mother Love Bone, which is one of my all time favorite bands, and so it holds a lot of weight right there for me. But also, it's just, and it kind of was like Hunger Strike was a big single, and it was like your introduction to Eddie Vedder before Pearl Jam came out. Which, for those who don't know, which Pearl Jam was formed from Mother Love Bones guitarist Stone Gossard, and bassist Jeff Ament. So it was like a whole lot of Seattle band, music loving going on. Because this band was pretty much, it was like Soundgarden and Pearl Jam mixed together. Because it was Stone Gossard, Mike McCready, and Jeff Ament who were in who were in who started Pearl Jam that year. And
Matt
then
Cameron and Chris Cornell.
yeah, and then Eddie Vedder on Hunger Strike. And
Yep.
which Matt Cameron is like, he ended up being the drummer of Pearl Jam later on in life, but he was with Soundgarden at the time. But dude, the whole 10 song album, just fucking wonderful. Like start off like Say Hello to Heaven, Reach Down, Hunger Strike, Pushing Forward Back, one of my all time favorites. Call Me a Dog. Chris Cornell he gives me chill bumps every time I hear that. Times of Trouble, Wooden Jesus, one of the best written songs. Like Wooden Jesus, I always remember my dad telling me about about that song, because it was like Wooden Jesus about all the like back in the day. Uh, damn, I can't even remember the preacher's name. It was during the time all those preachers were getting on TV and like ripping off all the old people, saying like, if you don't send me
Yeah.
money, you'll go to hell.
Yeah.
Essentially, and like it's a cool song. Like if you just listen to it, it's wild. Jimmy Swaggart, wasn't that his name? Yeah, it was like
Yeah. And
kind of,
people like
he was,
Pat Robertson and Jerry Falwell and people like
yeah,
that.
all them. But then the best song on the album, Your Savior, my favorite. Of course, there's the last two songs are Four Walled World and All Night Thing, which All Night Thing is so underrated. Everybody, like, if you just love Chris Cornell, like, like that song is just up your alley. Like, it's beautiful. But
Oh,
Your Savior, I just have to vent like a little bit. I'm trying not to go like too in depth, I guess, on the album because I love it. But like Your Savior, to me, like it is my personal favorite lead guitar solo of all time. And it's like it may be a total of 30 seconds of a guitar solo, if that. Like, it's not long, but it gets to the point. Like, Mike McCready is a monster. I think he's an underrated guitar player. Like, of all, when people start looking at all time stuff, because I don't know, like, he just is, like, he's just a little underrated to me. But Mike McCready, dude, like, that solo he does, it's just like, it just shows you, like, how you start a solo, how you build it, how you peak it, and how you drop it back down into the dance, and then, like, float into the song, like, as it's, like, it's just all one. Like, it's just, it's perfect. Chef's Kiss. Like, I love it. That's my favorite all time solo. That's a song definitely would recommend checking out, is Your Savior by Off Temple of the Dog. And then, yeah, I'll let you go. You can make a pick, get your second album in there.
Hmm. Well, sticking on the topic of Chris Cornell, um, when I first heard this album, I knew more about Audio Slave than I actually did about like bass Soundgarden. Like I'd heard like, the hits for the most part. And then Harley actually showed me this album, Bad Motorfinger from 1991. And yeah, it was again, we're talking about like just 10 out of 10 albums. And there ain't a bad song on it. Starts off with probably the most iconic intro of like that part of the 90s. And yeah, I'm even counting fucking Smells Like Teen Spirit. I don't care. Rusty Cage is one of the best ways to kick off an album I've ever heard in my life. And then for that to lead into Outshined, another absolute banger of a song, into what I can only describe as like vocal gymnastics on Slaves and Bulldozers, which is just 7 minutes of Chris Cornell screaming bloody murder. And again, amazing instrumentation from everybody involved. Going back to Rusty Cage, the breakdown in it, fucking mwah. Um, Outshined. They have that slower bridge kind of leading into right back into the song again. Again, you can't get better than that. Slaves and Bulldozers. I, words can't do it justice. You're just if you haven't heard that song, you need to go listen to it. It's a bit lengthy, but I promise you, it's not one of those songs where it's like, wow, when is this song going to be over? Like 6 minutes have went by, and you want to go back on it like a roller coaster because it's exactly what it is. And you don't get off of it right after that because it goes straight into Jesus Christ Pose, which I think was the first deep cut song from Soundgarden I ever heard. Again, Harley showed me the music video to it, and I'm the kind of person like I gotta listen to music in headphones to really get the full effect of everything going on. And hearing it over a little shitty TV in my bedroom wasn't the greatest example of it, but I was still hooked. And then I heard like the actual rhythm of what was going on, and it's like you just feel like you're running through the jungle. Is the best way I know how to describe that song. Drum, Matt Cameron, going back to him, probably the most impressive drumming on the album. And it's not because it's particularly hard, but he's just nonstop for 6 minutes straight. Just constantly just banging the toms, floor toms, just every drum he can find on his kit, just nonstop for 6 minutes straight. Very, very impressive showcase from everybody, truly. Um, Face Pollution, short but sweet, but absolutely fucking rips. This one was written solely by Ben Shepherd. The music, well, all the lyrics on the album except for like two songs was written by Chris Cornell, but um, these next two songs back to back were written by the bassist Ben Shepherd. Face Pollution, like I said, very short, very sweet, absolute banger. Somewhere, it's more of a slower pace song compared to the like the definitely the first half. It starts to slow down a bit in the second half, but in my opinion, like all the hits are on the first half of the album. The second half is like probably the better half of the album, in my opinion. Somewhere, like I said, written the music written by Ben Shepherd. Slower paced song, but still very very fun. Um, Searching with my good eye closed. Um, if you ever want to shit yourself, just go outside at like 2 in the morning, smoke you a bowl and your little 93 S10, and like backwoods, back road Mississippi, and just like play the intro to this song, just full blast, if like with no context going into it, and at least I'm speaking for myself, but again another just wild ride of a song, but not nearly as intense as like Jesus Christ Pose or even slaves and bulldozers, but still it's very tasteful kind of intensity. And then right after that, me and Harley's probably our favorite. This is probably my favorite Soundgarden song as a whole. I know it's definitely Harley's off of the album, but "Room a Thousand Years Wide."
Mm.
If you don't want to listen to this whole album because you don't have the time, I get it. Even though I highly recommend it, but if you're just going to listen to one song off this album you've never heard before, it needs to be "Room a Thousand Years Wide." Because I mean, if that is the most metal saxophone solo I've ever heard in my life.
It's beautiful.
I mean, yeah, I mean, if you can make the saxophone metal, then you're going places. Um, but no, I mean, very. It's just a very spacey, very big. Just the song feels big, like it's a very wall of sound, kind of just in your face. Especially the way it was mixed, you can hear everything. There's these little subtle like double taps on the bass pedal during the drumming of the verse, and he'll put it in between places. It just gives it a very nice little bounce to it, and it almost feels like in its own way like a proto new metal song, but that's just me. I describe things pretty odd because I'm an odd person. But anyway, I could go on about that song for the next hour, truthfully. But just to get through the album, Mind Riot, another great slow jam. I guess this closest thing you're gonna get to a slow jam on the album, kind of like Somewhere. Um, but it's Soundgarden, so I mean, there's always take quote unquote slow jam with a grain of salt. Drawing Flies, um, damn near a punk song in its own right, but it's not. Imagine Soundgarden doing punk, and that's Drawing Flies, but in the best way possible. It's a little
And
two
with
and a half, huh?
I was gonna say, and with horns, like there's a big
Oh
horn
yeah,
section in the chorus,
oh yeah. There's
but
yeah, like
it's great. That's
yeah,
also
they
my
just
dad's favorite. That's why I
yeah.
know that album. Like my dad used to sing that song "Drawing Flies" all the time. Like for some reason, like that song always stuck with him, and I remember listening to it my whole life. And he's just like, that was just his song. Like "Drawing Flies" was his favorite song off there.
Oh yeah. No, I mean there's you can go on and on and on about this album, but the last two, Holy Water,
Mm.
which mm, going back to slow bangers, these last two much slower than like the average pace of the album, but Holy Water, um, it's Chris Cornell does this thing every now and then where he's like singing lyrics that aren't sexual, but it feels like he's trying to seduce you, and that's like the best way I know how to describe it. But yeah, that's a really great example of it. And New Damage, absolute one of the best ways you could end an album, and just top to bottom. I mean, if I could give it a 12 out of 10, I would. But it's absolute 10 out of 10 album. And yeah, do you have anything else to add to that?
Oh no, it's just no, just the whole album's perfect. I mean, I really can't.
We
Really
could make
can't
the
think of
podcast
one.
about that album, truthfully.
Honestly, yeah, that album it holds a lot of places in our hearts. But I guess I mean just going through some albums, I guess, because I don't know, we kind of reviewed those albums, which not necessarily I guess what we're trying to do objectively, but like we're just passionate about music. We just like we get to talking about it, and then we just kind of go down a hole. So if this
Yeah,
episode's a little
Colby.
lengthy,
Colby, you opened up a can of fucking worms, but I don't really know what to tell
yeah,
you. Uh,
yeah, you brought this on
this
yourself,
could
man.
very easily be a 6 hour podcast. Just half asleep, just like, oh yeah, that's right, a Tribe Called Quest album.
Well, let me
Just
tell
like,
you, but so I'm gonna pick an album. I'm not. It's a long album, a longer album. So I'm not gonna like go through all the songs, but like okay, where I am as a person today, like I will go back and listen to it, and like the band is kind of like they're somewhat of a meme, and like all this, and it's like I don't necessarily like I I don't listen to them as much. Like I went through about 2.5 years where I listened to them every day, so it's like I just don't vibe with them like that as I do, but I do go back and listen to albums sometimes just to like revisit, I guess, my early teenage years. But like I got like I have to put like Blood Sugar Sex Magic from Red Hot Chili Peppers on there. Like, dude, like it's a perfect album. Like it really is. Like it's such a good album. Like you can say whatever about the Chili Peppers, and I know like the whole California shit, like most of their songs, but that album, oh, it's so good. Just the whole album, like I mean, I would recommend it to anybody, and it's easy listening. Like it's easier to get into that album than it is probably any of their other albums. Like as a whole, I mean, maybe Stadium Arcadium might be a little bit easier, but it's a 28 song album, so I don't really know if it's that much easier. But dude, like this album, like just the hits alone, Breaking the Girl, Suck My Kiss, Give It Away, the title track, Blood Sugar Sex Magic, Under the Bridge,
for Psycho Sexy.
Starsight. Well, I mean, Starsight, that's not a like they can't play that on the radio, but it is a fan favorite, and I love that song. And then like
I
the
heard that
one
song for
song,
the first time live,
yeah,
as did my mom and sister. Oh,
but like I always think I don't know. It's just I love that album. I love it a lot. Like man, like Righteous and the Wicked, just that's probably the Chili Peppers' hardest song. Like they had some heavier stuff when Hallel was in there. Like Uplift Mofo Party Plans probably like would be their most edgiest, like heaviest album, I guess. Which it's probably my favorite album of theirs. But like the but Blood Sugar, dude, like and like just the Righteous and the Wicked, the song in particular, it's very heavy. Like it's yeah, it's wonderful. And it's yeah, I don't know, like the whole album, bro. Like 1991, like that that year was on fire. I don't know I don't really know what to tell you. Like you can go and listen to that album any point in time in life. You know, can't go wrong with it. But yeah, that'd be one of my albums I'd have to put like to talk about.
yeah. No, I would say my third album would. I know this is kind of a. If it may feel like a cop out pick, but you can't really talk about 1991 without bringing up Nevermind at some point. Um,
Poser.
yeah, I know. I think all but three songs on that album are hits, honestly. And like to be completely fair, Nevermind is but my like their most popular album by far and always will be. But there's something about Bleach, man. Like Bleach is still probably gonna be my favorite album from Nirvana. But no, I mean pick a song from Nirvana and it's on Nevermind. I mean, this is one of those few albums like that I'd say a good 80% of this album was probably played on the radio at some point. Um, they definitely branched away more from the hardcore style or like the more edgy hardcore
Punk.
Seattle grungy, yeah, the punky sound they were coming from. Because like I have a hot take, Nirvana's a punk band and y'all are in denial. And like that's okay, they're good. It's punk. Just deal with it. But there's no such thing as grunge. Just accept it. Um, but Smells Like Teen Spirit and Bloom, Come As You Are, Breed, Lithium, Poly, Territorial Pissings, Drain You, Lounge Jack, Stay Away, On a Plane, Something in the Way. I
Endless,
mean,
nameless. I mean, dude,
Endless, Nameless. And they, again, these are skipless. Like, truly a fucking classic album.
yeah,
There's, there's I think music critics are going to do this album way more justice than I ever will. If you've been living under a rock your entire life and somehow you've never listened to this album, at least give it a try because I guarantee you at least find half the album to your liking. It's that accessible. But that was just a little short and sweet one on an album that's already been talked about a lot. So
yeah, like that album. I'll say like, never mind. Like I was late to the party to that album because, like, growing up, my dad, like, old Brett, shout out Brett. He didn't care for Nirvana, and never he liked Lithium. That's the one song he would always listen to on the radio. He's like, yeah, I love this fucking song. Be like, fuck the rest of this bullshit. It makes me suicidal. I'm like, okay. And so like that was pretty much Brett's. That's his review of Nirvana. But like I got to listening to it from my cousin Josh and my uncle Kenneth. They had the album like on a CD, and they let me listen to it. I rode around listening to the album, and I was like, fuck, like it's a damn good album. Like it, yeah, it's just it's a great album. Like there's even if you're not a Nirvana fan, like there's something on that album that you like. Like I said, even Brett like Lithium, it was off that album. Like he hates Nirvana, but like he'll listen to Lithium every fucking day. Like there's a song on there for each person. Like in my
absolutely.
opinion, but I'm gonna go with one of my next like another album I want to go over is motherfucking Slave to the goddamn motherfucking grind. 1,800 miles.
Mm,
I'm driving 1,800 miles tonight because you got soft hands, you pussy bitch. Let me tell you something. Fucking Slave to the Grind by Skid Row. Jesus fucking Christ, dude. That first
yeah,
album, look, listen, that
you're
first
not
album of
wrong.
theirs, Trevor. So, like, when we were younger, Trevor hated fucking Skid Row, and mainly I remember you like because that first album, I'm gonna keep it real with y'all. That first Skid Row album fucking sucked, and like besides Piece of Me, right? Yeah, Piece of Me was on there. Like besides that, that album blows. I don't like it. It's not good. Like, and I do like some hair metal shit, but that album sucks. I just don't like. Well,
Like
okay, I take it back.
we
I like I Remember You. I do like I Remember You too. So there's
No,
two
I
songs on
like
there.
to this day I hate it. But this like
That's on
to
you.
keep it short and sweet. Disclaimer: we do not hate hair metal. We actually enjoy hair metal quite a bit. We just don't like what Skid Row was trying to do hair metal.
Yeah, I didn't like their first album, but like, so they went on tour with Pantera at that time in like '90, and they were opening for Pantera, and like, fuck, we gotta step up our game and like come up with some shit because these dudes are like tearing it up. No, Pantera opened up for them, I think. Anyways,
Yeah,
whatever it was, and like so like that's what Pantera pretty much pushed Skid Row to like to do something different. just to keep up with the scene. And I'm like, Pantera's looked at as an iconic band. Some of the shit they did, personal levels, maybe, maybe not the best, but like Pantera, like, I do like, I don't know, I respect them. I'll say that. Like, I do, and I do like Pantera. It's just like, I don't know, it's one of them things that's like, it's not as much as you thought it was when you were younger, I guess I should say. But
Yeah,
like,
no,
I will forever be grateful that Pantera and went on tour with Skid Row and made them like and pushed their ass, because Skid Row put out the best album. And like, this is one of my favorite albums. Like, I'll go through the fucking, like, I'll just go through the set, like, the list real quick. There's 12 songs, like Monkey Business, banger. Slave to the Grind, one of the heaviest fucking songs. It's just awesome. The Threat, fuck me. Quicksand Jesus, Psycho Love, Get the Fuck Out, Living on a Chain Gang, Creep Show, In a Darkened Room, Riot Act, Mud Kicker, fucking banger. And then you end the album with Wasted Time, which is kind of like the last little bit of their hair metal, I guess. Like, Wasted Time was a ballad, but holy fuck. And like Sebastian Bach, dude, say what you want about the man. I don't give a fuck. He's one of the best singers to ever do it. And like, I'll go to my grave saying that. Like, the dude still sounds great even now to this day. And like, most people from back then don't have that voice. Like, they can't really do half of what they could. And like, the dude's still doing it. Like, Sebastian Bach's one of the greatest ever, in my opinion. And like, that album, Slave to the Grind, fucking perfect. Like, I just love it. Perfect album. I'll give it, like, I say perfect album. I give it like a, realistically, on a 10 scale, I give it like a 9 out of 10, I guess, for me personally. But
yeah.
that's it. Like, I got a little carried away, a little excited, but I love that album. Like, it forever changed my life. Like, on my, well, not my life, but my outlook on Skid Row. So like, shout out, love it, Slave to the Grind. Y'all need to check it out if you never dug into it. Like, it's wonderful. And then
Absolutely.
yeah, so you can pick a album. I guess you can go with your favorite Guns N' Roses, Use Your Illusion.
Oh, good God Almighty, no. Um, no, I think this next one will be a little fun because it's an album that honestly I should be more familiar with, but like at the end of the day, this is whether you like them or not, and I'm bringing them up because this is the favorite band of the man who suggested this video to begin with. So it'd be kind of weird if we didn't bring it up. Metallica's self-titled album from 1991, the Black Album.
As most of y'all
Whereas,
know it is.
yeah, probably, arguably the most popular Metallica album. Not even arguably, it is the most popular Metallica album. But as far as like the quality of everything, this is when they started to go more like a little more radio friendly, a little more poppy, and it did wonders for them. And I think they still lost Metal Album of the Year to Jethro Tull somehow. And we don't talk about that because I don't know how a harmonica is winning Metal Album of the Year, but they did, so it's whatever. Um, Again, no matter how you feel about this album, for the time, it is very hard to beat Enter Sandman as a first song on an album. I don't care how overplayed it is; it's very overplayed. We understand. It's still an iconic song. You just got to get used to that. And immediately right after that, Sad But True. So even though it's a little more radio friendly, it's still, this is an album that they just came out swinging. And then they actually showed you they're still a little softer because The Unforgiven came out.
Uh,
Just going off of the hits alone, you're talking about Enter Sandman, Sad But True, The
you missed it.
Unforgiven, huh?
You missed it. It's Holier Than
Mm.
Thou's the third song.
Oh yeah, no, I'm just talking about the hits.
Oh, I thought you were
You
talking
know,
about the. Thought you
No,
were
not the
going.
track list. Holier Than Thou, again, like any
That's a
song that wasn't a hit on
that's a
this
banger.
album was a banger. Yeah, yeah, that's the thing about this album. That's what's like. Even no matter how you feel about them, you need to at least give this album a try. And I need to, re up myself on it as well. But Holy, like I said, any song that isn't a hit on this album is an absolute banger. The Unforgiven, hit. Wherever I May Roam, hit. Don't Tread on Me, hit. Through the Never, banger. Nothing else matters, hit and banger. Of
Banger.
Wolf and Man,
Bullshit.
yeah.
Bullshit.
Let,
One of the
let's
worst
let's
fucking.
just
That
let's just
I'm
be
a
honest about that one.
boy. I'm gonna keep it a buck with you. That that song. So like
If they'd have
it's the
left that
drumming.
song off,
It's the drumming. It's the drumming on the song. Like I'm just I can't. It's just the boo 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 boo. Fuck that, dude. I can't stand that. Like it's the worst drum sound. Like it might be worse than the shit he did on Saint Anger. I ain't lying to you.
no,
Like
because Saint Anger is actually kind of aged well because a lot of hardcore bands are doing that sound now. You know, it's actually it's a I will like I'll die on that hill. It's not look. I'm not gonna sit here and say it's the best album they've ever put out. It's probably towards the bottom, but I feel like people are a little harsh about that snare sound because yes, it's not great, but it's got that garage band feel to it, and you're either gonna like that or hate it. And I guess most people hate it. Don't fit with thrash, I guess, but you know, probably easily the weakest song on the album because immediately after that you go into one of my favorite Metallica songs, "The God That Failed." Good God Almighty, what a song! And then you have my actual favorite Metallica song, "My Friend of Misery." Who? Thank God they let Jason Newsted actually play bass on this album because it wouldn't. That song would not have been the same
man,
without what Jason did for that song. Good Lord! And then closes off with "The Struggle Within," unless you had the bonus album, and then you got the Anti Nowhere League cover, "So What," where he talks about licking the Queen's twat.
mm.
And that's a fun ride. I think they performed it on MTV one time and got banned from ever being on there again. So that's pretty cool. But again, this is another album. I think music critics are going to say a lot more about it than I would ever. So definitely give it a listen if you haven't. Personally, I would probably give it off of my first initial listen, probably an 8.5, 9 out of 10. Like just off of like the consistency of it, the biggest stain on it is definitely of Wolf and Man. If it didn't have that song on the album, it's a 10 out of 10 without that
So
song.
I'll say this about that album. I don't like Wherever I May Roam.
It's a hit though.
I don't like yeah, I like this the songs I don't like. Like I don't I just don't I never liked Wherever I May Roam, whatever. And I don't like a Wolf and Man. So like those two songs just I can go without. But it's I'm like I have to say this about this. It's not my favorite Metallica album by far. But I will say it's a great album. But my God, how that album ends with the last three songs that you said. The God That Failed, that bass line stellar. Jason Newsted, like you said, like glad they let him play, like do his thing. That dude's a fucking menace. Like the God That Failed, My Friend of Misery, The Struggle Within, brother. Like you talk about three, like like people talk about like the three songs on an album, like a 3 song run on an album. That's up there. That has like to me, that's perfect. And to close an album with those 3 songs, my God, dude, like,
Yeah, you
ooh,
they
brother,
really pulled it. They really did pull it out of the bag. I gotta admit,
it,
like the
like
last three songs on that album,
they closed it hard.
I would have to look back through their discography, but that might be the strongest 3 song run in their discography.
It's right there.
Maybe.
It's up there with it. I am
I'd have to
like,
look. Honestly, their best 3 song run is probably going to be like on one of their first 3 albums, but or maybe even Injustice for All, because that's again, if they'd have turned up Jason on that album, that's the best Metallica album.
so like and Justice for All, that's my favorite album. Which we're not trying to get too far in the other albums, I guess. But like 3 song runs with Metallica, like and Justice for All, dude, like that's like I said, my favorite album. So I'm a little biased, but like to open it up like Blacken and Justice for All, Eye of the Beholder. What the fuck? And then like even it might be just as good as a 3-song run on the same album. The Shortest Straw, Harvester of Sorrow, Freight Ends of Sanity. What the fuck, dude?
Jesus.
Like, yeah, that's just it's a
shortest
banger.
shortest straw is just one of them. Just make you want to punch a hole in the wall in the best kind
Oh
of
yeah.
way.
But I will say this, before we get off this album, before we get off the Black Album, which this is for Colby, because we know this is his jam. Like
Shout out
Innocent,
Dire Z too. Shout out
like,
Dire Z. That's
oh
a
yeah.
fucking phenomenal song as well.
But like, so on the Black Album, like Metallica, Enter Sandman, me and Trevor talked about this the other day. Whether you know it's overplayed, blah, whatever you want to say. Here's the thing, like if you're walking out to it or it's an entrance or whatever, like Enter Sandman just fucking hits hard. When
It's
you
arguably goaded as an entrance. I mean, two great examples: Sandman from ECW, and if you want an even more electrifying example, watch you a Virginia Tech home game. Just watch
wonderful,
you just one, just one.
that's all you need.
If you get a chance to go to one, do that. But they walk. I don't know if y'all knew that, but Virginia Tech, their football team walks out to Enter Sandman for every home game. And even as overplayed as that song is, that is one of the most badass traditions in college football. No matter how you feel about it.
Nope. But then, I mean, really after that, it's just there's just different albums, I guess, in the 90s, like 91. I mean, there's a lot that went on, which I guess I mean, at this point, I guess we won't be picking albums. We'll just kind of be going over some, I guess. Like, one it's a banger is No More Tears from Ozzy Osbourne. Like,
Oh goddamn!
brother, what a fucking out. Like, Lemmy wrote, like Lemmy wrote, he helped write Mama, I'm Coming Home, uh, No More
Forgive
Tears.
me if I'm wrong, but isn't that the same album that has the cover of Hellraiser on it?
Yeah, that's Ozzy's Hellraiser, and then Motorhead has a Hellraiser on their album that same year. Like that,
Well, yeah,
dude.
Lemmy wrote that song.
Well, yeah, Ozzy and
Pretty,
Lemmy wrote it
pretty sure.
together.
Oh,
Yeah,
okay.
like they wrote "Mama, I'm Coming Home," "No More Tears," and "Hellraiser" together. Those three out, like
All
those
right.
three songs. Like that's crazy, dude. Like that album though, Mister Tinker Train. That's a banging album or banging song. I don't want to change the world, and I don't want the world to change me, brother. Hey, listen, I'm just gonna give you a little backstory since we're kind of on music for the first time. Like my dad's huge Black Sabbath fan. That's my favorite. Like Black Sabbath and Counterparts are my favorite bands of all time. And I have a whole I love Ozzy. I just whatever you want to say about it, fuck it, I don't care. Like I love Ozzy. Like Mama, I'm Coming Home. Shout out my cousin Josh. He had a 2004 Mitsubishi Mirage, and he used to bang that son of a bitch. He put a damn he had a a speaker system, like he had an audio system in that car. He had 212s in that fucking trunk of a Mitsubishi Mirage. If you don't know what a Mitsubishi Mirage looks like, just Google it and see. Imagine 212s and a 1500 amp kicking in that bitch. And don't tell me, like I remember being 8 years old, feeling my balls for the first time. Like that shit hit me hard. Like dude, that album, whoo.
Attempted manslaughter.
And another, I'll tell you, hey, a sleeper song. Okay, time after time. It was a single. I love that song. It's a really good album. Watch the music video though, because it's funny because it's a bunch of midgets. It's funny. Like, like it's crazy because it's Ozzy just holding a bunch of midgets. It's like, it's wild shit. But
Jesus.
and then like Road to Nowhere. That's one of the best Ozzy songs, and that's might be the best Zach Wild guitar performance on an Ozzy song. It's great. It's Road to Nowhere. That's my favorite song on the album. It's definitely something to listen to. I'm sure most people have heard No More Tears. or maybe the whole album in itself. But like, that's definitely an album to check out. From '91, like, can't go wrong with it.
Oh, absolutely, dude. Fucking just kind of a gloss over of another one of my albums, and we're kind of going to break genres here because going back to the start of the pod, 1991 was a year that a lot of music changed. And while Primus is my favorite band, I am a big rap fan. I love me some hip hop, and 1991 seemed to be one of, if not the year, that rap just dramatically changed. And you had Rakim and Eric B to thank for that a lot, especially Rakim. The way he was rapping, it just like everybody started doing it like that. And I'm not going to say everybody was copying him per se, but it was just more like when it started out, hip hop started out like, I'm walking down to the store and I'm going to get me some more and I'm going to get really bored. And just like, it was just this like, do, like you're falling down the stairs kind of a rhythm. And then all of a sudden you started having people just you had people like breaking what you could do with hip hop, and like an album from that year that I feel like encapsulates that really well. Sorry, I felt like I was talking really loud. I'm outside right now. Um, was the Low End Theory from A Tribe Called Quest,
Oh.
and this album came out September 24th, 1991 as well. I know.
Imagine
What a
that
beautiful,
day.
what a beautiful day for music indeed. And I actually looked on Wikipedia while we were talking about it. Bud Motorfinger was supposed to be released September 24th. They couldn't because of quote production issues, so it got released on October 8th. Unfortunately, it was supposed to come out September 24th. I've always heard the same thing myself, but but Wikipedia isn't exactly trustworthy. But
I was wrong.
hmm, but it's okay because on this album, speaking of Trevor's, a very famous Trevor made I guess his spring into notoriety as a rapper. A Trevor Smith on the song "Scenario," more famously known as Busta Rhymes, made his. I don't know if that was his hip hop debut in general, but it was definitely the first time people had heard of him. Yeah, and if you haven't heard that song, I highly recommend it because there's several. It's almost like a cipher because this is a 4 minute song, and that wasn't new to hip hop, but just going back and forth didn't really have much of a hook outside of "Here we go, yo, here we go, yo." So what's the scenario? Like that's pretty much all there was to a hook. And then you've got the other hits: "Check the Rhyme," "Jazz," parentheses we've got, and just throughout the album, there will be times when you're listening to this album, especially on a song like "Vibes and Stuff," track 7, and for a minute you're sitting there and like, surely this didn't come out in 1991. Just like 95, 96. No, 1991. They were way ahead of the game. And directly after that, you had people like the Wu-Tang Clan coming along. And I think the things that Q-Tip and Fife Dog and all these people were just, the lyrics they were providing over these beats that Ollie was doing, like it changed the game completely because right after that you had like Tupac started stepping his game up, and even Tupac dropped his solo album this year. I'm not going to get into it, but yeah, it's just great year, absolutely fantastic year for hip hop. This was really when everything changed, and I think that's the best rap album from that year in my opinion. So highly recommend it.
So I'm gonna switch this up. I'm gonna get a little passionate about this. This so 90. So the '90s, without a doubt, is my favorite era of country music. It's So many bangers. And let me tell you something. 1991 had so much heat coming off of it. I just I'll give you just a few albums. Like you had "Don't Rock the Jukebox" by Alan Jackson that came out. It's all about the change from Travis Tritt. "Roping the Wind" from Garth Brooks, which is my favorite Garth album. Holy hell, it's a perfect album, like a perfect country album. "Roping the Wind" from Garth, it's awesome. And then, but you had the debut album from Brooks and Dunn called "Brand New Man" with the self-titled track "Brand New Man" opened the album, and it also had "Neon Moon" on there, "Boot Scootin' Boogie" on there, and my personal favorite out of their hits off that album, "Lost and Found," which actually Kix Brooks sings, and it's not Ronnie Dunn. A lot of people don't even know that's a Brooks and Dunn song because Kix was singing. Which Kix did sing. He sang a good bit of songs, but it doesn't really have a Brooks and Dunn vibe. But it's a "Lost and Found's" a banger, and I recommend that album. I recommend that's a great album. But then you got "Sticks and Stones" from Tracy Lawrence. My God, what a fucking album! That is an all time great country album to listen to. And of course, my goat, my third favorite artist, the best country artist in my opinion, is fucking the King George Strait with "Chill of an Early Fall." My God, did I used to drink and cry myself to that album so much. Like George Strait, don't you can't go wrong with that. Like I know Colby's gonna love to hear that me talking about George Strait. Like everybody, they like pretty much most people that know me associate me with George Strait as they should, and like just yeah, it's oh man, George, like there was three number ones on that album. Go figure. I mean, he's only had 70 number one hits, so who would have thunk that? But then you had a debut of Sammy Kershaw.
That's not an
Don't
exaggeration either. He actually has 70 number one hits.
that's not an
That's
exaggeration.
like that's like an actual statistic. Like it's I don't is it 70 now?
It's 70. It
Jesus
actually,
Christ.
I know it won't like it if it's not technically 7, it might be 67, but I'm pretty sure it's 70 now.
Yeah, like I knew it was getting up there because a few years ago you told me it was like up in the 50s.
I
And
mean,
then what gets me is Amarillo by Morning was never a number one hit, right?
yeah, or the Fireman. It wasn't a number one hit either.
That's crazy.
That,
It's
yeah,
his
two biggest
arguably
songs.
his biggest hit and my personal favorite song. It's two separate ones. Fireman's my favorite song. Amarillo by Morning, if you didn't know, is arguably big George Strait's biggest hit.
Oh yeah, without a doubt. Like, if not, it's either Amarillo by Morning or Check Yes or No.
Yeah,
But yeah, like '90s the 1991 had a lot of great albums, and I mean just in every genre really. I mean, truthfully, like we talked about hip hop, rap, and we talked about metal and hard rock and country. Like, dude, there's so many albums. Like, shout out Colby for giving us this idea because this has been fun. Like, getting to talk about like all these different albums and
absolutely.
get to talk about all these different albums and songs and stuff. Like, kind of reminiscing on stuff maybe that we haven't touched on in a while. And it's like just talking about the classic. I don't know. It's some good shit. And like, yeah, dude, it's just great. Like 1991 it was a hard hitting year for sure.
If I had to give it a rank, if we had to rank it 0 to 10, 1991, and if there was any songs we forgot or any albums we forgot, feel free to go ahead and put your favorite picks of 1991 in the comments as well. But we were trying to keep this like an hour-ish long because realistically, this could be like a 3 hour long episode, like easily.
Easily.
And easy. Like if not six. Like we're talking like there's like if we ever get to talk about 2004, it's over. That's a 2 hour long episode. I'm sorry.
If we just get to talking about music, it's hard for us to start. So it's just like
It'll
one of
take me it'll take me a half hour to shut the fuck up about Mad Villainy
them.
alone, and that's just one album. But nah. Anyway, feel free to put whatever album you felt like we left out or any albums we did leave out, and we'll be sure to engage with you down there about how we feel about them as well. But if I had to rate this year just off the albums we put off of the years we could have potentially, this is easily like a 9.9 out of 10, if not a 10 out of 10
Oh
year.
yeah, it's it's definitely it's definitely up there. It's yeah. And I will say this before I get off. Just I had to go one more country rant real quick because I talked about roping the wind a little in depth, and I talked about chill of an early fall from George Strait. But don't rock the jukebox from Alan Jackson. I know I mentioned it, but like the first six songs on the album, let's see, they were all I'm pretty sure from the first six songs, I think all of them were number one hits. I'm pretty sure, if I'm not mistaken. The first six songs, number one hit. If Dallas might have been it might have been a number three hit, but I'm pretty sure it was a number one. Like, my God, how do you like this? That's insane to me. Like Alan Jackson, that was like when he hit his peak because it was like, or when he started going up because like his first album didn't really do too well. It was kind of like and like he kind of had a little peak, like a little like one song kind of peaked up a little bit to like 50, and then it dropped out. And then all of a sudden he was like, "I'm coming back for the second out." Like he did what he wanted to instead of the record label. And then, like I said, the first six songs are number one hits. Like, dude, get out of here, dude. Like that's insane. I don't care like what genre you are. Like you start off an album like that. That's just straight heat. Like you can't compete with that.
No, not at
Shout
all.
out, shout out, Alan Jackson. He's a real one.
Yeah, shout out Alan Jackson. Fun fact: he threw my sister into a pool at a hotel one time.
Oh yeah,
Um,
he
it,
did.
yeah, I mean that's what she's told me. I'm a believer, you know. But no, shout out to him. If you ever hear this, Alan Jackson, you need to apologize to Cynthia Nicole Sanders. Um, and yeah, I think that probably going to be the end of the episode today. Thank y'all for listening. Don't forget to like, subscribe, comment, hit that notification bell. Leave your if you really love us, leave your social security number in the comment section below.
Maybe a
And
credit card number. That way we can
yeah,
buy.
like your like read off those three little numbers on the back of your mom's debit card. And anyway, thank you. Keep
Now,
it classy, San Diego.
love you guys.